in the dining.
We'll do the pledge and the invocation. So Andy got it. Pray. Heavenly Father, help us be smart this evening. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag in the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, there you go. We have 2 new members. Welcome.
Three.
Three.
No, I'm
You're
new.
right. You know,
I know.
I looked at
It's
you and
crazy.
thought, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I looked at you and thought of
That you see
Jesse.
me enough? Oh,
I was
no.
like, there's Jesse. I know, no, you're not. So 3 new members.
Not
My
Dan either,
apologies.
by the way. Not Dan
So I know you can ridicule me about that later on. So well, welcome to the Electric Advisory Board. So I was at a little bit of a loss because I didn't anticipate we were going to lose 3 members so quickly, and then we did a whole bunch of background stuff on. Had FMPA come in and described all the little things that we do. So for Jack and Mark, probably a little bit of a repeat, but I didn't have that in mind for this evening. So I'm just going to kind of jump into stuff this evening. But your first order of business is to select officers because we've lost, 3 members. We lost Tim to the county commission. We lost Dan to, I think he termed out, and Dan termed out as well. And Jesse and Dan were like, can't make it. So welcome to the new folks.
Thank you. Thank you.
So is there any formal nomination on who would like to be the chairman of the Electric Advisory Board?
You're in the seat. I nominate
I don't
Jack.
mind doing it, but I have no idea how to do it. That's, you know.
We'll help you through it.
All right, you're gonna
All
have- yeah.
So there are no other nominations. Jack, you're the chairman. Do we have any other
Vice Chair.
vice chair? Any nominations for
Oh,
vice chair?
We'll nominate Mark for that.
Any other? Seeing none,
Second.
Mark, congratulations. And I think that rounds out our officers. Andy, yes?
Yes, sir.
Awesome. So Jack, this is where we turn over the meeting to you, and you are now on item 4, looking for a motion to approve the minutes.
Can we get a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved. Second. All in favor?
Wow.
Yes, all in favor.
All approved, okay. Discussion, new member update,
You can throw both items back to me.
okay. Al?
So we kind of started doing the new member updates. So depending on how, if you all, Jack and Mark, would like to go through kind of some of the stuff again, I think we started with the Electric Advisory Board about this time last year, or maybe a little before that. And so it kind of gave us a good prep, because we run on a fiscal year. So a fiscal year for all cities and the county in the state of Florida is October 1 to September 30. So that kind of gave us a couple of months to where we talked about not city stuff, but just electrical stuff and how kind of the main phases of electricity. So it starts in the power plants and generation to transmission to distribution and all the stuff that the city manages. So we're a member of the FMPA, the Florida Municipal Agency, and the FMPA is a conglomerate of several of the municipal electric utilities in the state. What do we have? 43 altogether, right? Or something like that. And FMPA has, we were arguing about how many electric munis there are in the state. But FMPA is a conglomerate of most of the electric utilities in the state of Florida that are owned by a municipality or publicly owned, like, or an authority, OUC, Orlando Utility Commission, KUA, Kissimmee Utility Authority, probably the biggest example, GRU, all the GRU special these days. They are now controlled by their own board that's appointed by the governor. But so we talked about that. So if you guys don't mind, we can bring it back some folks maybe next month and kind of give you that update again. This month when we're planning, we're just kind of trying to coordinate everybody, the change, and then juggle it within the schedule, and then kind of hit up against the wall as far as some timing. But specifically, last year that gave us some time to talk about all sorts of different stuff, and then we kind of got into budget operations. So being March, you guys are the new guys on board. Mike, Mike knows most of this stuff too from when he was working with the city. So we'll throw some stuff at you next month, and then we'll jump into budget in May. And then, so we'll bring the budget numbers. So that was kind of the update and the new member information update. So I kind of wanted to jump into where we're at with the power cost adjustment for this month. So I'm going to talk to everybody like they're new. Mark, Jack, Mike, you know some of this stuff as well. The power cost adjustment. When you get your city electric bill, you have a bundled bill. And it breaks down a couple of things for you. It gives you a customer charge. It gives you kilowatt usage and your kilowatt. So your customer charge is a flat rate every month. Mark, you got a bill right there. What's the customer charge? It's like $12.97, something like $8. What's the customer charge?
It was $12.50, I thought, for residential.
Are we right?
So I can look mine up on my phone.
It'd be the first one on there.
Electric customer.
I got 09. 09.2.
What's the charge then? Oh, I did it right, 'cause I just paid mine today, because I got it emailed today.
Customer charge,
Yeah.
15.
Oh,
So we're up to 15. So customer charge, actually, let me use your bill, so I won't. Mark, and frankly,
That's been 15 for a really long time.
Yeah, so we've been $15 for a really long time.
Yeah.
I thought we were 12 something.
And then we went up
Maybe we
at
did
past
go up a tick.
October.
We put it in the, maybe when we adjusted rates, we went into the customer charge instead of the kilowatt charge.
Because we talked about
Is
that in
that,
one of
yeah,
our
we
meetings.
did last
Yep.
year, didn't we? Yep. So you got your customer charge, then you got your sales charge, and the sales are split. So your first 1,000 kilowatts is a specific rate. Right now, we're charging about 9.2 cents a kilowatt for anything from 0 to 1,000, and then we're charging 11.5 cents anything over that. The industry likes to measure each other, you know, kind of where everybody's at, and the typical comparison is a residential rate and the residential rate at first 1,000. That, because the first 1,000 kilowatts of consumption is typically seen as the typical consumption. Our average consumption in Leesburg, by the way, is about 1,342 kilowatts. And I would say, I think that the last time we looked this up, about 43% of our electric customers on the residential side, 43% of our residential customers use 1,000 or less. And about 85 to 80% of our customers are all residential. And most of our industrial customers are within corporate limits. So we'll get back to that another time. So when you hear, we'll talk a lot about what is our rate per thousand. And our rate per thousand right now is like 127.92, which is a regionally competitive rate. Duke hangs out right now in the 160s. Seco, our next regional competitor, is pretty similar to us. They're typically $1 or $2 cheaper or less expensive. Mount Dora's been pretty lucky. There's some different dynamics on why they're a little bit lower, but I'm doing this by memory, by the way, too, so I could be wrong. I want to say Mount Dora right now is hanging around above 10, so they're pretty competitive statewide. But you have most of the investor-owned utilities already petitioning the Public Service Commission to increase their rates. So a note on that, I know I'm all over the place here, but the Public Service Commission is a body that reviews all utility issues amongst the state. There's 5 members on the Public Service Commission. They are appointed by the governor. The main purpose of the Public Service Commission monitors the investor-owned utilities and regulates electric usage and electric issues. When it comes to municipal electric utilities and cooperative electric utilities, we govern ourselves. We have rules that we follow that the state puts out, but for territorial issues where, you know, in the state of Florida, every square inch of Florida is fought over and done, and it's carved out over who serves that area. So it's not like McDonald's or Burger King where you can pick what you want. Where you live is in somebody's territory, and that's your electric provider. So that's a regulated system. So long story short, Public Service Commission manages all that for the investor-owned utilities. So when the investor-owned utilities need to increase their rates, they have to go to the Public Service Commission, and they do rate studies, and then the Public Service Commission approves or doesn't approve their rate increase. But typically, they're approved with some modifications. Typically, they might not get everything they want, but typically, when they go before the Public Service Commission, they typically get an increase. They have been turned down on occasion. So for municipals, us, and co-ops, we have a body that does that. So for the city, it's the city commission, and you all have been appointed to be their advisors in their role. The big reason for the Electric Advisory Board is that we recognize as a city is that we have different customer bases. Some of those customer bases aren't in the city, they're unincorporated. I think, Mike, you represent the unincorporated customers. I think
Small business.
your small business. Jack, we switched you over to big business. Mark represents the city of Fruitland Park, and Amanda.
I'm big
No,
business.
you're big business, you're residential.
I'm the city of Leesburg,
You're
yeah.
big, you're small, you're residential Leesburg, residential Fruitland Park,
Unincorporated.
residential unincorporated. And the purpose for the dichotomy there is to make sure that all of our branches or all of our customer classes have some sort of input on rate making and what's going on in the electric department, which serves the city. Thanks to Creation Hill. So I'm gonna skip ahead now back to the two parts of your electric bill. So that we've got the customer base. Now, so I lied, there are three parts: the customer charge, the use charges, and then the power cost adjustment charge. The electric customer charge and the base charges are fixed by the city commission on an annual basis by resolution. So we typically don't change those until it comes to the fiscal year when we change those. Those costs, those are all our requirements are wrapped up into that bill. So our requirements are generation, transmission, distribution, and then our customer service component, which is metering and then billing. So all those things are all lumped, all those costs that we pay to do all those things are lumped into your customer charge and your use charge. The third animal that you see on there is, do we call it bulk power cost on the bill?
Yep.
Is the bulk power cost. And for every kilowatt, we assign a rate per kilowatt. What the bulk power cost represents, or what it pays for, is the cost to buy power. So that's specific. So we have a cost to pay linemen, we have a cost for debt, which is typically when we went out and built lines or transformers. We have a cost to pay the folks who collect your bill. So all those are weaved in there. One of the most elastic costs that we have is when we buy power. And so that's a portion of your fixed cost. But because it's elastic, meaning it can go up or it can go down, and it goes up and down every month, we have a make good, if you will, a true up. And so every month we adjust the power cost adjustment on your power bill to ensure that we don't charge you too much, which we call an over recovery. We charge you too much. Or if we didn't charge you enough, it's an under recovery. And so we keep track, we have a separate account for our bulk power costs, which is that flexible port. Can you key that back up, please? So, I'll get to that in a second before it goes out. So we true those costs up on a regular basis, and we want to keep your bulk power cost as flat as possible, meaning keep it the same so you don't see big increases or big decreases in your power bill. Unfortunately, this month, we have to increase your power cost. This shouldn't be a surprise to you two, because back when we did it in October, we thought come the middle of the fiscal year, April, we were gonna have to increase our costs. I think I reported back in January, yay, it looks really good. Then February got bad, then January got bad, then February got good again, and then we don't know where we're at with March. So I wanted to talk to you about that today. So with that, let me jump over to this chart. This is our bulk cost of power chart, and it tracks our cost of energy. I have my clicker over. If you got, I'm just going to stand over here. So what this chart does is this chart tracks how much we're paying for power over the course of the fiscal year. So if you see these tabs down here, you kind of see our fiscal years. 25 and then older ones, so we're working obviously on fiscal year 25, and this column here, October, so the fiscal year starts at 21. So these first few lines are and I'm going to kind of be more simplistic than what the numbers are showing, but lines basically 3 through 14 show how much energy the entire city is buying. Lines 16 through 19 is how much we pay. So for example, in October, we paid a capacity of $16 a kilowatt hour. We paid a transmission charge of $5.85 a kilowatt hour, and our energy charge was $32.48 a megawatt hour. So those are all the charges that go in. And then lines 22 through 30 are taking those components of your use times your use times the unit charges to real dollars, you add it up. And then these last few lines where we talk about power cost recovery, those are our formula matrix to figure out how we over or under recover monies. And then the important lines to monitor is this line 43 down here in the bottom. So in these cases, what we have is we monitor what goes over, what goes under, if we charge you too much or we charge you too little. The rule of thumb that we try to do is we want to keep $3 million of cash on hand to absorb the yings and the yangs. So that was kind of the number that we've come up with that keeps shifting your cost of power on a monthly basis to a minimum so that the customers have a standard bill and it's not too high. In the summertime, when you use a lot of electricity, we like to keep the rate low as possible in the summer. And then in the winter, it's kind of the same. So we peak in the winter and we peak in the summer, because when it's really cold, everybody turns on the power. And when it's really hot and consistently hot, everybody turns on the power. So the cheaper times are kind of in the spring. But long story short, what we want to do is we want to kind of keep $3 million here. And if it gets too much, then we're over recovering, and then we try to slide money back to the customer by lowering the power cost adjustment. And if it gets in the negative numbers, which you don't see here, which is good, then we're right on spot. But this is kind of the net position, and this is a monthly position. So like for example, in October, we over collected $362,000. So that banked on last year where we finished at 3.2 million, and now we're at 3.6. So this chart is actual through February, and this chart's about a month in arrears. So we're in the middle of March right now, and we just got February's numbers. So we had a pretty good month in February we over recovered $405,000, and we're sitting on about 3.4 million bucks. So those are really good numbers. But what happens is, as we get these red numbers, that's when we under recover, and we typically see these as we start to get into the spring months and kind of some of the winter months when we kind of peak out. So we see losses of 550,000. We see losses of 717. We see losses of 610. So by the middle of May, or the end of May, May 31st, we're only going to have 1.5 million in the power cost adjustment. So that starts to get, by the way, I'll show you what it looks like in a minute without the adjustment. So these numbers when these numbers start leaking down that low, that starts to show we're not recovering enough. So this was our projection. We started out the year, this next line is important because this is the actual number per kilowatt. So 2 cents per kilowatt, and you'll hear me shift that around too. I'll say 2 cents. If I say cents, I'm talking kilowatt hours, each kilowatt hour. If I go to dollars on you, then I'm talking in thousands. So I'll do that on you from occasion. So I'll say $2, but $2 means 2 cents. And we're talking the same thing. So and you say that because if it's 2 cents a kilowatt and you use 1,000 kilowatts, you're going to have a $2 additional charge for your power cost adjustment. So when we mapped this out in the beginning of the year, in April, which is halfway through the fiscal year, we thought we would need to go to 250. So see how these numbers are all nice and kind of smooth. You know, we dip down, blah, 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 and then we rebound like nicely by the end of the year at 250. Let me show you what it would look like if we don't adjust the power cost adjustment. So those shifted a little over $1 million. I think we ended the fiscal year at 3.9. Is that where we ended?
Yeah.
So here we lost $1.5 million, so at 2.5. So this 2.5 number doesn't really wig us out too much because it's manageable. And then if you wrap it back into October, November, where we typically have strong months, if we end the year at 2.5 million, that's like, okay, cool, everybody's getting a lower rate. But the months that are worrisome are as we get here in the summer, where we start seeing higher declines. And then with the market not being as steady as we'd like, this one is really kind of an iffy increase. This one's more precautionary than it has been in the past, only because when was it? When did we do the big increase? What year was that? That was 3 or 4 years ago now, when we had to go up to the 7 cents, and we recovered all that back. So, kind of, we don't know exactly where our power costs are going, which is the next chart. Let me show you. We have an idea, and we get these numbers from FMPA. So I'm going to bounce back and forth between this. So what FMPA does for us is on a 6-month quarterly interval, they update what the all requirements project costs are going to be. So let me go back to FMPA a little bit. So FMPA is Florida Municipal Power Agency, as we said. They have different, what we call different power projects. You didn't catch it, you're laughing.
Florida.
Florida Municipal Power Agency.
Thank you.
And they have several different projects for municipalities where you get electric. Their flagship project is the All Requirements Project, which is 13 members. Or 12, it's 13. Made up of different cities, KUA, Leesburg, Ocala, I could probably, Key West, 13 cities, trust me. And we buy all our requirements from this project. So it's not just a generation, because remember, we've got generation, we've got transmission. So this project buys generation and transmission, wheeling, all those things that are associated with getting the power to the city of Leesburg's 5 substations, right to our front door. Then the city of Leesburg takes it from those substations and gets it to your house or your business. So every quarterly FMPA updates where we're at as far as what we can anticipate our wholesale cost to be. Our wholesale costs over a fiscal year runs, if it's not crazy, around $50 million a year. And I'll show you that number. So of the city's budget, $200 million, $50 million is this one number. So this is 25% of the budget right here. So this is like the lion's share of everything that we do. So we get a big giant budget book that's this big, and there's one number on one page that's 25% of that whole book. Okay, so what FMPA is saying, for the time frame that we're talking, March, April, May, June, the remainder of this fiscal year, this window, we're looking at costs of $86, $84, $86, $76, $77, $78 a megawatt. So those are megawatt prices for the group. Now, because there's 13 of us, everybody's a little bit different. Everybody pays a little bit different into the group based on whether you have generation. So some cities, like KUA, are in the group and they're providing transmission to the group. And so when KUA is running their generation facilities, they're getting a credit on their power bill because they're running engines. They have generation. We're a non-generating city. So our price isn't credited. Our price is actually runs 5 to 10%-ish higher than those numbers. So if the group in April is projected to pay $86 a megawatt, we're going to pay $86 plus or minus 5 to 10%. So how do we put that into the matrix and figure this out? The other chart. This isn't part of the chart, but I stuck it in here just to show you. These numbers here is our breakdown of comparing megawatt hour, because you can say, yo, Minner, why do you need the 250? Because you're fudging it somewhere else. You're overestimating your megawatt cost so you can increase the power cost adjustment. No, that's not the case. So what we see here is we see in April, so I'm in this column, well, in March, so yeah, our city cost is a little high there at 98 and 88, but look, we're already under recovering in this column. When we get into April, we're saying 94 bucks, FMPA saying 90. But you see these, so we start seeing some inverses going on as we get through the year. So all things being equal, we kind of balance out. So long story short, I really think you need that extra half a cent starting here.
Can I ask you a question? Actually, two questions. I don't want to throw off your momentum
My
here.
presentation is now complete. We need the extra half a cent. So, any questions?
So, two things. First of all, while you're on that slide, for entertainment value, if you were to split the difference and do 0.225 instead of 0.25, what would that end of the year number look like?
I'll do both. So to go to 2 so you need
225.
you're kind of hanging right out.
You're still at 3 million.
I'm still at
3.1.
3, and I'm saving you 250.
Is that an option? Is there anything magical about them being round numbers?
No, and the reason we went to 250 is that's what we projected, and that's what I stuck with. So we probably could go to 2.25, but the negatives to 2.25 is when we get into May, we're sitting down there now at 1 point, I can't tell if that's 3 or 8.
1.36.
We start getting low in those months, and so I'd rather go in with the extra 2.5 cents, because then I think we can roll something off. So if we over collect more now when it's cheaper, then we have more flexibility to peel it off in the summertime. So what does that mean in English? If I get a little bit more, if the utility gets a little bit more from the customer now and over recovers in spring, your customer's going to feel it less because you're not using as many kilowatts. That allows the utility to over recover. So then in the summertime, if the utility's in a good position, we can peel the power cost adjustment off and save you more in the summer when you're using more. So it's a little bit 6 1 half a dozen the other, but I'm being super conservative by going to 2.5.
So along the same lines then, and this is where it's tricky because obviously everybody's usage varies. The difference between the 0.025 and the 0.225, what's your best guess as to what that amounts to in dollars on a monthly bill on a residential home? Are we talking
$20.
like, okay.
If it's 0.02 on 1,000 kilowatts, you're getting a $20 charge on your DPCA.
Mhm.
If it's 0.25, you get a $25 charge on your first 1,000 kilowatt hours. As Al said, our standard residential customers are right around 1,000. So if you have it 25 in the shoulder months when energy consumption is lower, you're not burning as many kWhs, so you're lower cost. In the summer, you're going to have a lot more kWh usage, so a small increase is going to impact you a little bit more. So again, right now it's $20 on a residential bill for the first 1,000. We're submitting, with your
25.
change, it'd be $25 on your normal bill for a residential customer.
I don't think
You
that was
do it
your
now
whole
when
question.
energy's lower.
Your question was.
No, I'm
What's the
following.
difference?
I'm
That,
following.
that was individual. I thought you asked the whole customer base,
No, it really is,
which is,
what I'm trying to get to is what is the impact? I mean, are we splitting hairs over a quarter of a penny? And what is that? Is that a dozen eggs for a household?
it's
I mean,
$250.
okay,
It's $250.
based on 1,000. And you said, well, I'm
What's,
sorry,
what's
what?
1364 times, what, 1364, which is the average, totally average
What did you say the
bill
percentage was that
times-
used about 1,000?
43%.
Al says
It's-
that 80% of
80%? They use less
our
than
average, so let me make sure.
That sounds low.
Average is more than about 50%, right? So our average says uses 1340 a month. We see a lot of the ones in villages, because there's a lot of gas in there, they're using even less.
$34
We see
now.
villagers with 400, 500 kilowatts a month.
Okay.
So it all depends on your gas mix.
$3.36 for the average user, which is 1345 kilowatts.
Okay.
So going your method of 2 1/4 versus 2 1/2
Mhm.
is on the average user, $3.36.
Okay.
So I mean, it's
Understand.
it's not a lot, but now times 25,000 for the utility. So that's, and you see the number difference there when we floated in there. 2 1/4 might have been a good one, Mark. What worries me are these future numbers. And look, I don't think I've ever been one to shy away
Wait,
from.
before you click out of this, can I ask you a follow-up?
Yeah.
Because I think it's going to lead into where you're going.
Yep,
Can you explain, so the two yellow lines, the city and the FMPA,
yep.
why isn't there a more consistent difference? Like, why isn't there like a 5% swing month to month to month? Like, there's some months where there's no swing at all, and other months where it's a 5, 6, 7% swing. Why isn't there a more consistent deviation?
I'm gonna give you two answers. Answer number one is because, answer number one is just the gas market itself is gonna fluctuate. And you're gonna see in the peak times, summer and winter, gas going more expensive. You know, in the day, we tried to keep gas, gas typically was seen as good, around $2 a decatherm. So that a measurement, a unit for gas, right? So now what are we paying? The average cost now is probably 3 and some change, and we're hedging around.
Well, I think the
4.
hedging, I think we're hedging right now anywhere between 50 and 25%.
No,
Back in-
what dollar? A dollar amount.
I don't have that number. I look at the
So-
percentage of our gas that we're hedging
Right.
versus the
But-
tax.
So we're
But you
talking
were
two
but-
different things.
What you were saying, the FMPA number is what's projected, right?
Yeah.
For the group,
Yep,
but because we don't generate our own, we've got to add on, I think you said somewhere between 5 and 10%,
ish.
which is what gives us the city number
Yep,
on that spreadsheet.
yep,
Why isn't there a more consistent percentage from month to month?
right.
Like, wouldn't you use
Yeah.
8% as sort of a consistent difference between those two, between the FMPA and the city number?
So there's your group number. So that's what we're getting from, F&PA. So
Got it.
F&PA's got a delta of, the low up there is $70, the high up there is $95.
Okay.
And you see where the peaks are in the winter. So that's just all totally based on the market. So whatever gas they're buying is affecting that rate. What the utility then tries to do is we try to smooth it out for you.
Okay.
You with me? What we're seeing this year too, which is different than past years, is because of our hedging program and because gas has been up and down all over the place a little bit, F&PA's been kicking stuff back to us unexpectedly. So that's good, right? We don't, because we want our money, right? And we want it, and we want our money, and I'm gonna undo this so you can see these numbers a little bit better. But this is our energy chart
$67 right now.
from F&PA.
It's up, yeah.
And look at what it's done this year. I'll come over there so you can see it a little bit better. So this number is the unit number they charge us. So this is what we're doing on this chart. So we're trying to keep it flat here. So this is where we're manipulating it so that you don't have those ups and downs. But when FMPA can get us a discount, we're seeing that. So look at this number. So we started out the year with thinking we're going to pay $32.48 for our energy charge from FMPA. Look at November,
Yeah.
$17.81. Woo-hoo! That's because there was surplus of gas and gas got super cheap and FMPA passed that back to us. Look what happened the next month. It went up to 36. Like, what? So this is when I came into you guys singing, you know, whistling Dixie, saying, oh, it's going to be really great. We had a great November. Well, I spoke too soon. And then December was bad. Look at January, jumped up to 39, and now a lot of that's going to be how cold was the winter, and it's how cold was the winter up north. It almost has more of an impact on how cold the winter it is for us down here. So that's another reason why the extra quarter of a cent is because this is the first time I've kind of seen these numbers. I mean, 1 month we're paying $39, the next month, and then look at February, we came back to 26. So these numbers, we went back just to kind of a flat line, $32 on the energy charge. So if gas gets super cheap again, we'll see this energy charge drop, and then we'll give it back to the customer in the power cost adjustment over the summer.
I was just gonna ask,
I
so
was
if
gonna
the
ask.
price for like a barrel of oil goes down, then that would impact that cost then. So you kind of just answered that.
Yes, but don't mix oil and gas.
No, I get that. No, I get that, but it does go hand in hand.
It does.
So how often do you make the adjustments?
We look at it every month.
Okay.
And we try to keep the adjustments to a minimum. So we're, all these inputs are going in here, and then we're trying to come up with one cost to be less evasive, so you have a consistent bill. So, and that was the other thing too, Mark, which we fell back to the 250 for the quarter cent change. Frankly, I just felt like, let's go with that, because if we stay higher now, hopefully then come June or July, if stuff gets cheaper, then we can peel some off in the summertime.
Okay.
And it's what we said from the get-go. So we were kind of close. Any questions on all that?
Nope, not for me.
Don't forget to refresh your numbers again.
Oh,
So
I
it doesn't
won't,
throw off your
because
spreadsheet.
I'll just throw it away without saying it. And and I'll be honest too, and I didn't have Paul Austin come in. The team changed a little bit this month, and that was another reason for my conservative approach. Jim Williams, our long-term finance director, who was pretty versed in the electric stuff, who was managing the chart for us along with me, retired. So this was Paul Austin. You guys might know Paul. Paul was our customer service manager downstairs. He's our new finance director. So this was Paul's first power cost adjustment month, and so it happened to come in the middle of the fiscal year. So I was ultimately a little more conservative than that probably needed to be known. We're only talking about $2, but I think it's where it needs to be, and hopefully we can trim it up moving into the summer. That's all I had for you this evening. I know just for the new folks, there's a million things. Hopefully we didn't. Hopefully you caught most of the discussion. But it'd probably be good to get everybody back into. We'll bring back in the charts next month, and we'll go. Introductions. You guys probably did. Andy Purvis is our city clerk. Maria is our budget. I don't know your title.
Administrative Services Coordinator.
She does all the budgeting and stuff out in the electric department. Then you got Brad Chase as our electric director, and Chris Atkins is one of the deputies. So Brad, and we got into this a lot too, so Brad has his house divided in the services. So electric director reports to city manager and then the commission. But Brad divides his house kind of on the IT and design side of the house, which is Chris, and IT being SCADA. So when your power goes out, there's I call it the Star Wars room at the electric department. Probably should give you guys a tour of that. And so when your power goes out, we know it before you do, 99.99% of the time, because our system talks, and so when a meter goes out, it tells us, and then Chris's board lights up with an address or a pole or whatever, and then the guys go out and fix it, which is the other side of the house. So design of system and kind of surveillance of the system is Chris's side of the house, and then keeping the electric flowing and the poles up and the wires up is kind of the lineman construction side of the house, which is under Greg David. So Brad's got the two directors, Greg's not here. So that's most of the team you have this evening.
So going on topics, you talked about budget, you talked about maybe governance or legislation a little bit, and then some gas price. There's some pretty good deck of slides that they put together at FMPA that it's mine, but we can bring if you're interested in that.
We'll go back, if unless you guys want to skip the tutorial, and we'll go right into the budget. So it's up to you all. The tutorial, I don't know, you guys have a,
I have a good grasp on it.
Yeah, I think it was valuable, but I'm not going to speak
Well, I
for
mean,
them.
I wouldn't have a grasp on it if we didn't go through everything we did last year.
we'll hit it again next
Yeah.
month.
Well, I will not be here next month. I'm sorry, I already told Miss Andy I would not, so I'm gonna be out of the state. I'm sorry.
Then we'll push it off till May.
Special tutor session.
I'm very sorry. I can do a special tutor session, but,
If you have time, come see me.
yeah, I'll make a time to come and talk.
Okay, so we'll figure it
I
out.
don't want to hold up the group just because I have a trip planned.
We'll figure it out. So that's all I had for you this evening.
Okay.
Unrelated question? There was a social media post last week about somebody asking about a pollution abatement charge on their bill.
Yes,
Can you explain what that is and why some got it and some didn't?
pollution abatement is our water, or is our sewer charge. We call it pollution abatement. So on some people's bills,
It
it
was septic.
says sewer, on some people's bills, it says
Pollution abatement.
pollution abatement. That might be, and I don't know why, I'm totally guessing, maybe that's because we still are in the world of where we have some meters that are cubic feet and some meters that are gallon, and so that could be an indication on why we call it something different, but we've done that forever.
So if,
Septic versus sewer.
Septic versus sewer is a totally different issue.
That's what I mean, so they wouldn't have that charge if they have a septic
Now, if you have a
system.
septic tank, you wouldn't have
You
that
wouldn't
charge
have
at
that
all.
charge on your bill.
But I'm gonna say probably 95% of the stuff in the city is on public sewer, which is your sewer or your pollution abatement.
so in Fruitland Park, where we get our water from Fruitland Park, we would not have seen that charge on our
You
electric
would-
bill.
You would not. And I don't know what Fruitland Park calls it. You'd probably get a water and a sewer bill from Fruitland Park.
Yeah, probably.
But I got that question today, it was on my desk too. Sewer abatement, or pollution abatement is sewer.
And does that fluctuate?
No, there's a one fixed charge. It's similar to electric. We have two charges, whether you have a meter that measures in gallons or cubic feet, and I think it's 7.1 gallons to a cubic foot is the conversion, something like that. So we have two price ranges, we have the classes, residential, and then I think we have 3 or 4 different commercial classes, but typically everybody's a residential rate, and then the residential rate has one fixed charge, or it has a customer charge and then your use charges, but those use charges will vary based on whether you're cubic feet or whether you're gallons.
Okay. So to be clear, it's a monthly charge and it varies depending on your individual water usage.
Yes. And the sewer charge is based on water. So if 10,000 gallons flows through your house, we don't measure what comes out, but the industry standard is what goes in comes out. So every utility is pretty much the same. They don't measure wastewater out, they measure water in, and that's equivalent to the sewer out.
Roll call?
I have nothing.
I have nothing.
Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.